Hey Otto, the next step in your project will be to find all your sources and to begin to organize your notes. So in order to help you remember important information from each source, we are suggesting that you highlight the information or underline the information in your paper. And that will just help you understand the message that the author's conveying, helps you organize information, and it really helps you keep track for what information you might need next in order to write your paper. So it's a very helpful strategy, and it's pretty painless. This example is taken from a longer article titled Defining Business. And so if I were to answer this focus question, what is business? I might underline and highlight the information here in red. Business is activities involving producing, marketing, and services. Organization involved are called companies or businesses, and there are some functions of business. There are two primary functions, production and marketing, and those things depend upon support activity, including management. Management plans and organizes and controls all of the resources to help companies reach their goals. So when we're talking about creating, growing, manufacturing, improving goods or services, that's production, and it's a key part of business. So you can see how easily I was able to take the underlined and highlighted information, use some keywords, or I like to call them magnet words. They attract other pieces of information. I'm filling in my own information, and it makes it much, much easier to put things in my own words and do notes. And that's another reason we're really suggesting this strategy. So if you look at this selection, what percentage of the text is highlighted? I think you might remember the first time you were ever given a highlighter. If it was yellow, then probably most of your paper was yellow. Highlighting is a bit of an art, and there's a bit of a science to it as well. So think about what percentage of text is highlighted on this piece. It's an extension of the earlier piece. When you're highlighting, it's mathematically expressed, less is more. You want to try to highlight no more than 20 or 30%. So what do you highlight? What do you include? You would include nouns. If you don't remember what a noun is from grammar class, it's a person, it's a place, or it's a thing. You would probably highlight verbs. Those are your action words. And your adjectives and adverbs, your describing words. I can ignore the part of speech called articles. Those are simply a, and the. And I can ignore some conjunctions, including the conjunction and. My brain will fill all those in as I read anyway. And you saw me do that when I went through the highlighting on that other piece. You might have to highlight some conjunctions if they really give meaning. Words like because would be important relationship words to highlight. So your next step is going to be to highlight your pieces. And if you look at this document, this has some highlighting or underlining, and it has some margin notes and some things, some responses that I had as I read this piece. So just taking a look here. Here's an example. Here's some underlined information I found out over here. This is 2 years ago. 2 years ago, this information was important. So what is the date? Is this old information? So I'm continuing to evaluate my sources as I go. When I'm done with that, I can come in and make some notes, and I have some investigation questions, some questions I had as a reader as I read the sources. This one was, are self-driving cars ready for the average driver? Here's the information that I got, the title, the author, where I got it from, the type of text, and the publication date. So this just gives me some information, and it will help me with note-taking. Is ethanol a practical alternative fuel? So these are Common Core documents and really helpful for our assignment. Is diesel a viable fuel for car fuel? So basically that just gives you some examples of taking notes, and again using margin notes and underlining to help get materials together. I do want to call attention to the one section right here. This is the end of an article, and you can see from these little people here, this is a blog. These are people's comments. Interesting to read. Might be okay for me to consider as I look for new things to research, but this is not credible information anyone can write on a blog. So just ignore this section, and good luck. Your next step and your next due date is next week, And we're expecting to see some highlighting, some margin notes, and some other notes to get you well on the way to completing this project. Your highlighted margin notes are due next week, and your notes or note cards will be due the following week. And we'll go into some more information on that later on. Good luck, and you can email me or call me for help.